birthday to us, Karen.
Yes, happy birthday to us. And I haven't got coffee this morning. I've run out. So it's unfortunate smoothie time.
A year later, look how she's changed, folks. Look how she's changed.
I was going to dash to the shops this morning, and I was just like, oh my goodness, no, it was 9:30. So I thought, no, I'm cutting it a bit fine.
From our mugs to our smoothies. Mind you saying that I'm going to have a smoothie later. But yes, would you believe that as we're celebrating coming out of like lockdown slowly and gently, this actually marks the first time we went live after we had a discussion and thought, let's just do this. We'll probably last like 2 weeks. I don't know.
And a year later, every week, apart from maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah. Brilliant. A few options. But just wanted to say thank you to you guys. And thank you, Karen, obviously, co-host.
Yeah, thank you. Sending you virtual flowers.
Oh, there you go. Love and vibes. But thank you for those that have been watching and commenting. And also, you know, to our fabulous guests that come on and also provide so much insight and knowledge. And I have so much fun talking about small business chat and getting people on and, you know, really showcasing their expertise. But also the community around it. We're quite active on LinkedIn. I ask a lot of questions with our small business like leaders and community to ask their insights on our subjects. So the stuff that you don't see behind the scenes, right? That I'm sitting there thinking, and it's actually purely coincidental that I had penciled in this subject before I realized it was our anniversary. But we were talking about the myths of the six-figure sort of framework that we often see, that there are coaches sending out there like, you know, we have 6 figures, or how to scale your business up to 6 or 7 figures. And there's nothing wrong with money, by the way. I love money. I want more money. Yes, absolutely. We embrace money. We could do more good things with money. The money part isn't the issue. It is almost the lie behind it, that you can hack your way to business success that easily. If it was really that simple as one book, then wouldn't we all be there? And it's something that you and I talk about the entire time, but we were just discussing it, weren't we? Going, crikey, if you think about what goes in behind something as simple as a 30-minute Facebook Live, you do your 10-minute one. Mm-hmm. How much work goes into that? Just to even
huge amounts for it.
Yeah. And it's great. We enjoy it. We love it. That's the important thing. So to be able to hack your way into the 6-figure business, it was like, yes, sure, sign me up. But interestingly, why is there such a huge market for this? So I know Karen's got a lot to say, so I'm just going to say, release the Kraken. She's out. No, I mean, for me, for my point of view, we had a really interesting discussion. I asked a question on LinkedIn on my post, and the warming thing was that there are a lot of wizened professionals that said, no, you can't hack it. You know, you don't see how much work is behind it. And actually, you know, from my point of view, whether or not it is a case of, you know, if it's going to be short-term success, like, is it going to be short-lived? You know, if you get that quick results, is it short-lived? So, I mean, again, let's go through initial thoughts first, but we're going to try and balance it out. And if you are watching, please put your comments down below, what you might think, what your challenges are. I'd love to be proven wrong. Like, seriously, I honestly, that's why I put the question out. This is why we have these discussions. Please prove us wrong. But I think, you know, let's hear from you, Karen, because I think you've got so much to say about it.
Well, from a balance point of view, I do believe there are people who have done it and have had success. And there are some, you know, there are probably some great programs, great coaches out there, business mentors and that are doing that. I mean, I think the one thing, I don't know if it comes up with you, but you sort of see 6 figures and you immediately kind of think, oh, I'm going to make $1 million in a year. And 6 figures actually isn't $1 million. It's, you know, it's up to 999,999. So
they take away your costs.
Just breaking that 100,000 barrier a year, which is a huge amount of money. I mean, I would love that. You know, that is your 6 figures. So it could be anything between that and $1 million.
Yeah.
So it is quite a vast difference. And I think, you know, while there is a framework, if you are going to go for something like that, then you've got to go with someone who's really in your niche, I think, that understands you, that has got proven results and that. But what I find out there is people who are offering that are charging extortionate amounts of money. So it's a very much a sort of dangling the carrot in front of you, you know, or that silver bullet or whatever that you want to call it. And people go, oh yeah, I want to do that. And they're just sort of starting out and they're just like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And they sign up. And it's actually, they end up probably burning out because you would, if you're not at that place in your business where you've been doing it for years and building it up and, you know, you've got all your foundations placed, so you've got your branding, you've got your audience, you know, and all of these things take a huge amount of time. I mean, it's very, very rare that you suddenly, you know, launch your business and you've got an audience of, you know, tens of thousands. So you've got all those, even if you've got all those things in place, you know, by the time you, well, if you've got all those things in place, by the time you start maybe one of these sessions, you know, yes, the potential is that you will do that and you will do well and you will sell out your course and that. You know, will you sell your soul in the process? I don't know. Depends who you do it with and how you do it. Or will you burn out in the process? You know, and then, like you say, it's short-lived, isn't it?
Also, I suppose that it's short-lived because you haven't built the foundations to sustain that. So for me, it's like, well, you might have had some amazing, let's just say amazing piece of coverage, or, you know, some exposure where everyone knows about it, you know, or, you know what it's like if you're in fashion, you get someone like, you know, Duchess of Cambridge wearing it, like, and then boom, it's off, or you get the, you know, Mark, whatever it may be. You've seen that in the press, and then it's flying off the shelves, and isn't that amazing? But again, if you haven't built up those foundations to sustain, making sure the website's properly, you know, catered to, I think that's a brilliant thing actually. If your website isn't able to cope with that rush of traffic and it crashes, like sort of things like that, then what you're going to do, you're going to lose out on those customers, like all these elements that I'm like, wow, there's so much to think about. And you don't need, I mean, the reason why, I know where I am, but I've also been listening to the other side of the discussion. So I think I can sort of temper the discussion a little bit, because, you know, I know some great coaches that have made that six figure. They show you how they do it, and they also say, yeah, I've hit it, but these are my expenses. These are my expenses. So, you know,
and they've got someone helping them as well. They've got support and stuff as well. They're not necessarily just doing it on their own, are they?
And also, I don't like, I mean, there was a coach who does really well, and do you know what, she was, I haven't done her course, but actually what was quite interesting was she was talking about six figures because she really worked her backside off, that poor woman. She already had an audience. So actually but she tells you it took her 7 rounds to get to that six figure with the launches, like 7 rounds. And she's really honest about it. Yeah, she's getting trolled because she was saying, but I can get you there. Like, you know, I do know my stuff, I can get you there, but that was 7 rounds of like, but she's really honest about what to expect. So actually the expectations of how long it will take and what these other elements are, because you can sign up for a course and then they say, so yeah, you sell it to your audience, and you're like, wait, what? What audience? Yeah, oh yeah, your warmed up customers. They're like, oh yeah, I did not do that bit, so I've got this shiny course, no audience, like you were saying. And again, it doesn't have to be thousands, it has to be those warmed up, like even just 100, like a couple of hundreds, for example. If you were to sell like a course of, you know, 500, like that's still quite really, you know, it's really good. If you were to think, right, 10 places bent around, or whatever it may be, £200, whatever it may be, it's still something, isn't it?
Yeah, but they're not, your whole audience are not going to buy it, isn't it? The conversion rate is very small.
Like
so
1 to 2%.
The bigger your audience, the more chance you've got of converting more people. Yeah,
I think the average is 1 to 2% of online conversion from your audience. And so if you imagine that the goal is either you grow your audience, but also you nurture your audience so that they are more receptive and you know exactly what they need. That's the other thing. So I was speaking to somebody the other day, and it was just like, you know, you can read all the books you like, but if you're not asking your ideal client, like, what are your pain points, and you could do just a very quick test on that, then actually, you know, you come up with a solution. She spent all this time on the solution, and it's like, but you're gonna have to market it in the language that they're used to. So you're gonna have to speak to them to get that language in the first place. And then you're probably going to adjust the copy around your sales copy around that solution anyway. So yeah, it was really interesting. But I think from the framework, the framework's there. I'm not disputing the framework that they might have to show you, but the work behind it to get to each level, I'm like, yeah, that's the bit that takes a bit longer.
Yeah, because there is a lot involved. Like you were saying, just on the show alone, you've got to come up with, the format you're going to do. You've got to have the a process in place on how you're getting guests on the show. You've got to come up with content of what each show is going to have. You've got to do the graphics that go with it to promote it. You've got to have the tech side to sort of schedule the things. You've got to pay for Zoom like this to be able to live stream it. Then you've got to, there's the after work of then uploading to YouTube, and and so it goes on, and then promoting that out again and again. So that's all time, and time is money. So there's there is a lot of work, and I think a lot of these times that people are signing up to one of these 6-figure, 7-figure things, I think you're right. You have to have those foundations in place. You've got to have, I think personally, I don't know, someone else can tell me otherwise, but I think you do have to have a big audience. I think you do have to have your branding in place. I think you've really got to know your niche, and like you say, your clients' problems, and that whatever you're building to get that 6-7-figure thing, you've got to have an absolutely clear solution to that problem.
Absolutely. Another point that was brought up, which I quite liked, and then I want to go on to something that you mentioned. Actually, let's go to what you mentioned first about we were talking about your slower marketing approach. And the other thing is that the reason why I think this 6-figure idea of almost short, I was saying, maybe I've misunderstood it. Maybe it's the fact that 6 figures, yeah, you may get it, but you need to spend all this time doing it. Whereas for a lot of people, to understand how much work there is involved, I loved the imagery of the iceberg, or for me, the swan that glides, but it's paddling underneath to keep afloat. It's gliding. Yeah, absolutely. You've got what looks outside when success is there, and the iceberg at the very top, but you don't see the massive ice under the water, for example. And I think from what people were saying about it, there's so much hard work behind it, that there is that word that a lot of people don't like is hustle. But there is so much that you've got to do, and I don't disagree with the word hustle, in the sense that you actually have to do the work. You can't just sit there and go, well, I've done my bits, but I haven't done the elements in between, and therefore I'm just going to expect it to come to me. I built my website, they will come. You know this too well.
Yeah.
What about the marketing behind it, the audience building? And
Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah. And I think that people are getting confused with productivity and actually doing the work. And I was saying, when people come to me about growing community, audience building, marketing, establishing trust, building reputation, a lot of clients will do this. And if you're a client, maybe just something to think about as well, because we have so much. It's a long game. It's a marathon. It takes time. And I remember saying to somebody, right, you have to do all this audience building, and the only way you're going to do that is if you're active on social and you're commenting on other people's. And it was a really interesting comment. They'd obviously read a productivity book, and they went, right, obviously read 80-20 and went, right, what is the 20% of what you've just said that will get me the 80% results? And I just kind of went, you can't hack a relationship. That's like me saying, Karen, for our anniversary, I thought about getting you flowers. Not quite the same. No, you hear what I'm saying? I've got to be honest. I'd be like, where's the chocolate bar? Where's the, just joking. But honestly, you'd be like, yeah, that's not quite the same element of I was thinking about it, or I just wanted to do 20% of the work. But you mentioned about some of the work that you're doing in terms of your marketing training.
Yeah, in terms of the sort of long-term and short-term game, absolutely. I think I like the slow marketing approach, because like you say, it does take a lot of time to kind of build that trust, build that audience, build that engagement. But sometimes it does get to a point where you're just like, you know what, I need to pay the rent and the bills at the end of the month. I've got to hustle, and I've got to get some money in quick. And one of the courses I did a couple of years ago, I literally had, I think was it beginning of 2019 in January or whatever, and it was just business was particularly bad at the time. And this was before I did my big rebrand, by the way, which has made a huge difference. And I had £100 left in my bank account, and I paid the $100 for this course. And it was about sort of a 30-day.
Like,
I know, it was like, right, I'm taking. I mean, I'd been following Tad for a long time, and I knew his stuff was good, so I knew I was going to get massive value out of it. But I just thought, right, I'm going to do this. And it was sort of a 5-week course, you know, and it was the meantime 30-day program, and it was about hustling to kind of get in just a little bit of money. Some people did quite well, but it was sold as this is a short-term solution. It's about getting those low-hanging fruit that people talk about. So it was reaching out to people that you knew, was asking for help. It was putting something out, putting an offer out there, and seeing if, you know, people were interested. So, you know, sometimes you just do have to do things like that, but bear in mind that is a short-term gain. I did one of them, and I think I did it on some packages for MailChimp, and I didn't sell one. And it was because I hadn't been in contact with that audience for a very long time, and suddenly they got the sales pitch. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, and then I was just like, oh, and I felt sort of a bit flat. I mean, I got a couple of queries and people sort of said, oh, we're not interested in that, but we might be interested in something else, or one-to-one. So it wasn't completely kind of conversion, but I felt sort of a bit taken aback. And then I looked at it and I thought, no, Karen, you're just in a bad place at the moment. And actually, what result were you expecting? You know, you haven't been in touch with those people. You haven't been putting in the work behind it. You haven't been engaging with them. And like you were saying, nurturing them. And you're now suddenly expecting them to buy. Hello. So, you know, so I think as well, you've got to be set up for that as well. If you are going to use one of these frameworks and everything, and you do something like that, but you're very new to people, you know, you might be disappointed if you're not going to get the results. And you've got to look at it quite rationally and think, well, okay, I've tried that. Let's tweak it and let's try again, you know, and change it.
I think that is what I have seen in memberships. It's like, go, 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 go. This is hustle for the wrong. This is the wrong kind of hustle. It's almost like the, you know, trying to, you know, move forward. Like it's the speed hustle, like absolutely do the work. And, you know, money loves speed. I get that, you know, when you see an opportunity, absolutely. But it was almost as part of the course was to do the, you know, the quick sell, the low hanging fruit, which is brilliant. And majority of people did see it, but I think when it comes to the bigger sort of options, and they are launching, you're absolutely right. I've just been in too many groups where I've seen people go, oh, you know, I didn't quite get the results. That's not to say to stop. That is actually to say you've got to continue. It's actually to say you've warmed them up. You've actually said hello. I don't disbelieve that, you know, I don't believe that was a bad thing to do, because actually, you know, we're so uncomfortable with selling that actually we need to get into that process of, no, I've got something good to offer you and this is where it is. It just might be that it's not the right time. It just might be that, you know, they've got so much noise going on. The amount of times I see people that have done a launch, and I happen to be following them both personally and then professionally, and then somebody will say, oh, I didn't even see like all of your content, like, sorry, you launched something. And again, this is where it's like, well, actually, if you haven't got the system in place and you haven't done the work, just making sure you can automate and process stuff, you know, likelihood is people wouldn't have seen it. So yeah, I kind of get that. I love that. And also the other comment that I saw, which I thought this is spot on, is that, again, there is nothing wrong with being a business that wants to build up, sell up very quickly, like, and turn it around. That's absolutely fine. You're playing a finite game, as you know, I've heard, and that's Ton, actually, thank you for pointing this out on the comments. But it's like, you know, most business owners are in the infinite game. you know, we're looking at building a brand and a legacy or doing something with Purpose Fishing's group. But when you've got somebody that is trying to just quickly build something up, scale it up, and then sell it, then actually they don't mind being on the hamster wheel. They're looking for the quick, right, what's going to get me up?
Well, I mean, that really is a true definition of an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Whereas we're more solopreneurs.
Yeah.
Because you're sticking at one thing and you're continuing it. Entrepreneurs sort of, they've got lots of ideas, so they, you know, they're jumping in, build up a project, and then move on to the next one, and then move on to the next one, because, you know, and that's the personality. And if, you know, if you can keep that up in a sustainable way, then, you know, good on you.
I know some people, in fact, like, honestly, she cracks me up, but she, you know, she's got like she's got one business, 3 side hustles, and like, you know, and I'm sitting there going, and every time I'm like, what's the next one, like, seriously. And it's just amazing to watch her, but she's an entrepreneur at heart, whereas I would sit there and go, no, I'm all about the long game. I'm all about, I want to build something up. Yes, I will leave it at some point, but I would like to change my role, because I can imagine that I would still be interested, but I'd like to do something else, you know, from that. So I see it as much more long-term, infinite game sort of mentality. And I think that's the difference, is that, you know, again, you might be more appealing to the 6-figure, like, very quick, what the hacks. But the fact is, I don't think there are any hacks. I think what we're trying to explain here is that, you know, you're always going to have to do the work. You know, you can't shortcut certain things. And actually, even if you wanted the know, like, trust factor, and even if you were thinking about short term, you still need word of mouth. You still need people to talk about your brand in a way that, or, you know, your service or your product in a way that people will recommend. Like, there's no other.
And again, a lot of those, you know, those things, you know, you might be within a group and you're also leveraging off each other's audiences as well to get the word out there, so it can grow that way. You might have to do advertising, so spend money in advertising. I think a lot of these rely on kind of Facebook ads and things like that. So you've got to, you know, you'd have to factor in money that you're spending out each day to really grow it. You know, but I think, you know, the frameworks are probably invaluable, because that is something that I think where a lot of solopreneurs fall down, is they're doing so many different things that, you know, the processes is where things are taking the time. So it's trying to automate as much as you can, you know, and streamlining everything that you do, because obviously that then gives you the capacity to bring in more work and take on more work.
Absolutely. So hopefully that's helped you. I've had a really good, you know, I've enjoyed this discussion. And actually, it's been really interesting to hear other people's point of view, because at some point, again, I'm in different, like, chat rooms in Clubhouse, and I'm seeing so many of these rooms come in, and it just angers me. I just feel my blood boiling, because I'm like, these people haven't even, that's the other thing that I would say, is that, you know, do your research to that person. I've got no problem saying, you know, with somebody saying that they're a 6-figure business owner, but actually go look at what they do and justify it, because
and look as if they're fit for you as well.
Yes. Absolutely. And also, this is, again, some of the stuff that we're talking about, personality type, like what your situation is. You know, I cannot be as active, you know, personally myself, so I need a slower marketing and just do the bits that I know that I can do. So, you know, again, working with somebody who's all about, right, fast, I could not work with that person, because it's like, well, you know, that's not my situation in life. So, you know, looking at, that's a really valid point. And I think that making sure you put the groundwork in, for sure. So there's pros and cons. I think we've kind of explained where you would fit, but ultimately, you know, one of the questions I'm now asking a lot of people, instead of trying to jump to solutions, what do you want for your business? And are you prepared for hamster wheel for short term, or are you trying to glide like the swan? Like, that to me is like,
it's that work-life balance as well, isn't it? I mean, a lot would maybe argue that if they go through that process and then they are earning the 6 figures, then they can get someone to help them out and everything else, so that they do have more work. And for sure, I've seen people who have got to that stage, and they do, you know, they live a much better lifestyle. They've got a team helping them out underneath, so it takes the stress off them. And just watching out. And I mean, I know I've seen them. I've gone, oh, that looks great. You know, the sponsored ads and the
Shiny,
shiny.
shiny.
And it's like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. You know what I mean? You know, because they are so well crafted that it is designed to make you stop and look and go, I want that.
Yeah.
So
well, they've done their marketing well. They know what your pain points are. They know that messaging is like, this is going to get your attention. And, you know, either they've hired a copywriter or they've done their research, whatever it may be, but they've done their research, fair due. So, you know, it's at that point. So absolutely.
Just make sure you can afford it. That's all.
Yes, absolutely. So just to sort of like wrap up, it has been a year, so we are launching this newsletter, which is finally, so I put the link in the event, but I'll put it at the end of the show notes so that you can finally see. This is how long it takes, a year, to get this newsletter up. Again, you know, I don't have a team of people around me and I'm looking at like all of the keywords and everything to make it sort of like valuable here, and the content, but this is realistically how it takes. And we've just got somebody to help us with a bit of the graphics. You've got somebody to help you. This is how it goes. This is why it's truthful and honest on this live.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we'll put that down, but thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, thanks for supporting us, and happy birthday to us.
Yeah.
Bye.